Hey everyone, welcome to a new video. Welcome to my channel. My name is Maika. Today I'm going to be ranking all of my face palettes for you. I have quite a few face palettes and I have to say that I don't use them a whole lot. So ranking these was actually quite easy. That being said, just because I put something towards the bottom doesn't necessarily mean that it's something I'm not entirely loving or anything like that. Some of these products I used to love and I used to use a lot, and that's why they kind of stuck around. But I tend to be more of a singles gal, so I don't tend to reach for a palette in my day-to-day life, and I use them mainly when I travel. And I don't travel a whole lot either because I just live a regular person's life. So that's why this was quite easy to do. So let's just get straight to it. So the first palette that I want to show you that I rank at the bottom of the list is the Zoeva Concealer Spectrum palette. And this is one that I got free as a gift with purchase at Beauty Bay. I wasn't able to take it out of my cart. This was something I was not interested in at all. So that's why this is towards the bottom. I know I will never use this. So I wish that I could have just said that I didn't want it, like that I could have opted out, because I know a concealer palette like this just won't get used. So this is a bit of a shame. Next up is the Essence Crystal Power Blush and Highlighter Palette. This was one when the new fall winter release came out. This wasn't out yet for some reason. I could find the eyeshadow palette, but not the face palette. And I just bought it the other day because I still wanted to try it. And this is two highlighters and then two blushes. This blush looks incredibly dark. Everything has shimmer. This looks very glittery. So that's why I haven't tried it yet, which is why I put it towards the bottom. But I'm not entirely enthusiastic about this one just yet. It may not be my cup of tea. Next up are these two contouring palettes. One by Essence, one by Catrice. I like the Catrice one perhaps a little bit better than the Essence one. This comes with a contour and a highlight shade, it says, but this is just like a very light bronzer on me. And doesn't really do a whole lot, whereas this is a really nice like matte bronzer. But I did find that this is a bit sort of like patchy, a bit muddy, and that's why it's not my favorite. It can work, it can do the job very well, but I have other face palettes, especially by Catrice, that I love a lot more than I do this little guy. So this is definitely one that if I were to declutter my collection right now, I would probably get rid of it. But I haven't even reviewed this yet because I haven't gotten around to it yet, but I tried it for a while and it just didn't make my makeup look really great because it had a tendency to stick to patches and to just look a bit weird. So not a great one. As for the Catrice one, a little bit similarly, I just have a Catrice palette that has a contour shade in it that's perfect for me, that is a lot older than this, but that I still like a lot better in terms of like quality. This is nice if you missed out on the old version and you can find this. This is really good. It's just that because I have the other one, which I like a ton, just a ton more, I don't really get a lot of use out of it. But if I were in a pinch, this would be nice. The face palette also means highlighter palettes, and I have this one by Catrice. This is the Galaxy in a Box Holographic Glow palette. And this is a really nice highlighter palette. It's just that I have other highlighter palettes that I prefer over this one. It comes with like a transparent face gloss, which I don't use. It has powders next to creams. Not my favorite. A few of these, especially this shade here, has a really nice duochrome shift. This works really well as like a blushy shade on me if I want that glowy shade. So this definitely has a use, and I definitely got some use out of it, but it's not one of my favorites. Also towards the bottom is the Kat Von D Shade and Light, Shade and Light palette. I was about to say eye palette, but this is the face palette. And the main reason for that is because it has so many shades that I don't use. It's the reason why I held off buying a contour kit for a very long time. And by now, I don't do a whole lot of contouring anymore either. But I've only ever really used these three shades. This is too dark, that is too dark, that is too dark. This is a nice contour, that is a nice bronzer, and that is a nice under eye setting powder, but I don't really use that anymore, so that's why I decided to put this towards the bottom, because I like having a contour kit in my collection, I do have to say that, but it's not something I'm currently into, so that's why it sort of hangs out in my collection like that. Next up is a Zoeva Blush Palette, actually blush and highlight. This is from their Opulence collection, and they put these out, I think, like once a year they put out these little face palettes, and I really like this. The highlight in this is really gorgeous. This is a matte, like it could almost work as a bronzer on me, but it's a bit too orange. And this blush is gorgeous, but I need to use a very light hand. So in terms of like matching to my skin color, it doesn't really work very well, but I do love the shades in here, which is why I still have it in my collection. So I mentioned having other palettes by Essence that I like better, and the Hey Cheeks palette, which I think has already been discontinued, but this is a blush, bronzer, and highlight palette, of which I could use the first 5 shades just fine. This shimmery bronzer was a bit weird on me, but everything else worked really nicely. It has a nice highlighter, it has a nice bronzer. If you can still find this, then at the drugstore, this is a really nice budget option if you're looking for a face palette. Another Essence palette then, this is the Glow to Go highlighter palette. And they only did this for like a hot minute, but I really enjoyed this because these two highlighters work really well on me. And I really like this shade as a bit of like a glowy bronzer. So again, one of those products that I feel like if I'm in a pinch, I could use this, but again, not something I reach for a whole lot because I already have so many single bronzer, blushes, and highlighters that I absolutely adore. An OG, definitely something that I bought because of YouTube, because of influencers, is the Wet n Wild Mega Glow Contouring Palette in Dulce de Leche. And I've gotten a little bit of use out of this, but I definitely bought this during my I'm not really into contour anymore sort of phase, so I don't use this a whole lot. But it has a really nice sort of like bronzy shade for me. I would not really use this highlight shade very much. I'm not really into matte highlights or like separate setting powders. I rather just use an all over glowy powder, and that's what works best on me, I think. So that's why this doesn't get a whole lot of use, but it's definitely a nice product. Again, it's not necessarily something I have to have in my collection because I have other products that are this like little duo style thing that I prefer over this one. I was sent this product in a swap. This is the Quo Blush Palette in Coral Bliss. And these are some really nice blushes, you guys. Again, blush palettes are not something I reach for a whole lot, but in terms of like having 3 really gorgeous shades, especially this one here on the end, which is like a really nice matte, dusty rose mauve shade, these are really nice quality, which is why I've kept it around. And the same goes for the next palette, which is another blush palette. This is by Sleek. This is their Pumpkin palette. I used to have a ton of these, but I ended up only keeping this because it has this sort of like reddish coral shade, and I don't have anything like it in my single blush collection, which is why I've kept this one around, because it's a really nice like bright poppy shade. And I had singles of like 2 similar shades of this also from Sleek, but I decided to declutter these and keep this. So if I want a matte pumpkin orange shade, I can. If I want a very bright pink shade, I can. Another Zoeva blush palettes. All of these blush palettes are a little bit in the middle because I don't really reach for them a whole lot. This is from their Premiere collection, and this is like a really, like the packaging of this is absolutely gorgeous. And I just felt that these shades worked a bit better on me in terms of blushes. The highlight in here is a bit too gold, so I wish I could have the highlight from the Opulence collection in this one, and that would have been perfect. This is again a little bit of like a brighter coral poppy shade, and this is a bit more muted, a bit more plum. This looks really stunning on the face as well. So I really like these blushes. I love the quality of these, which is why I keep them around, but again, I don't use the whole lot. Next up, another palette from the swap that I did from Canada. This is the Covergirl Trublend Super Stunner palette. And in terms of drugstore highlighter palettes, this is one of the best ones, I have to say. It's a really, really nice one. I ranked another one that you'll see in a minute just a little bit higher because it's more easily available to me. This, of course, if you're in the US or Canada, is a lot more easy to get your hands on. So I do think that you, depending on where you live, you can go for this one or the next one that I will feature if you're looking for a drugstore highlight palette. This is really nice. So if you're not in North America, but you're in Europe and you can get Catrice, then definitely look in into their new Luminize highlight and blush palette. This has more of a blush. The other one is definitely more of just a highlight, but the highlighters in here are absolutely stunning. I put this in my Shop My Stash last month and I went ham on this shade here. these are gorgeous. These are really nice highlighters. So I feel this is very similar to the Covergirl one, which is why I sort of ranked them equally. And it looked like I wasn't there yet, but we have already entered my top 10. So those two highlighter palettes were number 10 and number 9. We are now at number 8. And at number 8, I have the Anastasia Moonchild palette. I keep this around even though I hardly ever use it, but if I want a duochrome highlight, I have this. I definitely have a couple of singles that are duochromes as well, but if I want a green highlight, it's in here. If I want a blue highlight, it's in here. If I want like a pinky highlight, it's in here. If I want a true purple highlight, it's in here. The two shades I don't really get a lot of wear out of are Star and... yeah, no, Blue Moon is fine, but I definitely like these first three. Those I use the most, and I also like Purple Horseshoe. And I really like these as inner corner highlights sometimes, or like as a bit of a topper over an eyeshadow look, which is why I keep it around. Number 7, Catrice Romantic Gardens Everyday Face and Cheek Palette. They do this style of face palette in different skin tones. So this is the lightest one. They also have a medium one and they have a dark one. I just bought the lightest one. The bronzer in here isn't the best, but the 3 blushes and the 2 highlighters, they are stunning. And in terms of quality, this is definitely a little bit more pricey in Catrice's line, but I was wowed when I tried this. This is definitely one that I want to keep around. I think this top 10, like if I were to declutter my makeup collection right now, then in this top 10, nothing would be decluttered because I love all of these products. It's just that I prefer using singles in my day-to-day life, but it's nice and handy for travel. You do get a good size mirror in here as well, so it could work for that. But as you will see, my top 1 favorite, that's what I use to travel with most of the time. So I already have a good travel palette. I don't need this, but I do like it, if that makes sense. Then we have the Nars. I think this is called the Narcissist Cheek Palette. I bought this on a whim. This was definitely a bit of an impulse buy. If I want to have like a luxury face palette, then this is definitely it. I love every single shade in here, you guys. And I definitely like pulling this in if I go somewhere for like the weekend, I go stay over at my parents' place or over Christmas time. I definitely pull this in. But this is quite heavy packaging, so it's not perfect for travel when you like have to check in luggage. It's just not that kind of palette. I think it would break very easily. It has this mirror front, which I think could just break in your bag, which is of course what you don't want. So I definitely use cheek palettes, face palettes when I travel, and this in theory is really nice because you get a bronzer, a contour, like a matte highlight shade, and then 4 blush shades. And it works really well. It has Laguna, and that's why I keep it around, because I decluttered my single of Laguna because it was just a bit old. And I was like, hey, I still have the product in here, so I don't feel bad decluttering that, you could say. So that's why I still keep this around, but again, I don't use it a whole lot. Top 5 favorites, and now we also get to some older products that I've had in my collection for a while. One of them is the now long sadly discontinued Catrice Prime and Fine Contouring Palette. When I did do contouring, this was my jam. This is the best contour shade I own, which is why I keep it around. Just for that reason, and it's discontinued, so I can no longer get it. And every single time Catrice comes out with a new contouring palette, I put it up next to this, and I'm like, I still like you more, so that's why it's definitely in the top 5. In a very similar vein, I definitely bought this product when I was into contouring, but actually this is not really a contour palette, but more of a bronzer and highlighter light palette. And this is the W7 Hollywood Bronze and Glow. Now this is a Charlotte Tilbury dupe. And I'm not sure if you can see that, but there's a really huge big dent in this bronzer. That's how much I loved it. I definitely want to put this in a Shop My Stash, maybe next month, to make sure that I get some more use out of it. I remember really liking this bronzer. The highlight I wasn't a fan of, but this bronzer shade was perfect on me. Then I have cobbled together this little Z palette with minis of some Benefit products. This was, I believe, called the Cheekaton Cheek Palette, I think. It also came with Coralista, but mine broke when I depotted all of these. And it was just big and bulky, and that's why I wasn't using it. So it has Hoola, which was a shade I wanted to try. I have to say I have to prefer the light version of Hoola for myself. But it has Dandelion, which is one of my favorite all-time blush shades. It has Sugar Bomb, and it has Rockateur. I do have to say that I don't feel that these are necessarily the same as the singles when you buy them in the actual packaging. I think these shades pull a little bit differently, but that being said, I do really like these shades, and I have used this plenty of times to wear down the names that are embossed in at least 3 of these shades. So it does get used, and that's why it's top 3. Top 2 are drugstore, because I love drugstore face palettes for some reason. This is the e.l.f. Palette that I cobbled together myself. So this is not as affordable because this is like products that I pulled from 3 palettes that I had. I had the contour palette, the highlight palette, and the lighter blush palette. So I pulled my favorite blush from the blush palette. I pulled my favorite highlighter from the highlight palette. And then I've kept the 2 like bronzer and contour shades. And this just does everything in one go. Like if I travel, this is what gets taken with me. It's got a good size mirror. So this is definitely great for doing your makeup on the go. And then you just have one little face look all in one go, which is why this is top 2. But my top favorite face palette is an OG sleek face form palette in Fair. This is the one that if I travel, I definitely chuck into a bag because I just like this bronzer shade a bit more, and because this has a contour, so if I ever want to go back to contouring, I can do it using this palette. But with this, I feel I have everything I currently need. So it's got a bronzer, a highlight, and a blush. This is a dupe for Nars Orgasm. I love it. So these 2 are such handy little travel palettes. And I love this because it's even a bit smaller than, and also slimmer. I'm not sure if you can see that, than the e.l.f. one. So this is definitely great for chucking into a makeup bag. It's nice and small, it's sturdy. You do get a mirror. None of the product is like lost because of brushes or anything like that. And these are super affordable. Sleek still does them. You can still get this. If you're looking for a good travel face palette, this would be it. So there we have it. Those were all of my face palettes ranked. I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more by me. I make new videos 3 days a week, so I hope you would like to stay tuned, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!